I just want my life back. These words echo through a Los Angeles courtroom in 2021. They come from one of the most famous voices in the world. But this isn't a song. This is a desperate plea to a judge from someone who has been trapped for over a decade. Imagine waking up tomorrow and discovering you can't access your own bank account. You can't drive your car without permission. You can't choose what to eat for breakfast. You can't see your friends without approval. You can't even get married without someone else saying yes or no. Now imagine this isn't a nightmare you wake up from. Imagine this is your reality for 13 years. What happens when the people who are supposed to protect you become your captors? What happens when success becomes a prison and fame becomes a cage? What happens when your own family sells your freedom for profit? This is the story of how the most successful pop star of the early 2000s became a prisoner in her own life. This is the story of a billion-dollar empire built on the complete destruction of personal freedom. This is the story of Britney Spears and the 13-year conservatorship that turned the American dream into an American nightmare. For over a decade, Britney Spears couldn't make a single decision about her own life. She couldn't spend $20 without permission. She couldn't choose her own doctor. She couldn't decide who to date or when to work. She generated hundreds of millions of dollars while living like a prisoner in a golden cage. The woman who sang about being stronger than yesterday couldn't even choose her own clothes. The pop princess who told the world she was not a girl, not yet a woman, was treated like a child well into her 30s. The performer who commanded stages around the globe couldn't command her own destiny. But this story doesn't start with a courtroom. It starts with a little girl from Louisiana who just wanted to sing. Kentwood, Louisiana is the kind of small town where everyone knows everyone. Population 2,000. One main street. Dreams bigger than the town itself. This is where Britney Jean Spears enters the world on December 2nd, 1981. Her mother Lynn is a teacher. Her father Jamie works construction and struggles with alcohol. They live in a modest home with big ambitions for their daughter. From the moment Britney can walk, she's performing. She dances around the living room, she sings along to the radio, she puts on shows for anyone who will watch. By age 3, she's taking dance lessons. By age 5, she's competing in talent competitions across the South. Lynn Spears recognizes something special in her eldest daughter. This isn't just a phase. This isn't just a cute hobby. Britney has genuine talent, the kind that could take her far from small-town Louisiana. But recognizing talent and nurturing it properly are two very different things. Jamie Spears becomes the driving force behind Britney's early career. He sees dollar signs in his daughter's abilities. He starts managing every aspect of her development. At age 8, Britney auditions for the Mickey Mouse Club. She doesn't make it the first time, but the experience plants a seed. This little girl from Louisiana belongs on stages much bigger than local talent shows. The family begins revolving around Britney's potential career. They make sacrifices, they invest money they don't have. They pin their financial hopes on their daughter's success. Lynn and Britney move to New York so she can study at a performing arts school. Jamie stays in Louisiana, working to support this expensive dream. At age 11, Britney auditions again for the Mickey Mouse Club. This time she makes it. She joins the cast alongside future stars like Justin Timberlake, Christina Aguilera, and Ryan Gosling. But even at this young age, patterns are forming that will define her entire life. While other child performers have stage parents who protect them, Britney has stage parents who see her as their meal ticket. The Spears family isn't just supporting their daughter's dream, they're building their entire financial future on her shoulders. Extended family members start getting involved. Everyone wants a piece of the potential success. Britney herself is largely unaware of these dynamics. She's just a kid who loves to perform. She's naturally gifted, hardworking, and eager to please. She trusts the adults around her to make the right decisions. She doesn't realize that her childhood is already being traded away for the promise of fame and fortune. The Mickey Mouse Club ends when Britney is 13, but the momentum doesn't stop. She's already caught the attention of music industry professionals. She's already being molded into a marketable product. The adults in her life are already making plans for her future that don't include asking what she wants. By age 15, Britney is signed with Jive Records. She's working with top producers and songwriters. She's being packaged as the next big thing in pop music. The machine around her is growing larger and more complex. Managers, agents, publicists, choreographers, everyone has a stake in Britney Spears becoming a superstar. The family financial pressure intensifies. They've moved to Los Angeles. They're living off advances and investments in Britney's career. There's no backup plan. Success isn't just the goal anymore. It's the only option. Failure would mean financial ruin for the entire extended family network that's now depending on this teenager from Louisiana. Jamie Spears emerges as the central figure in this growing empire. He may not understand the music business, but he understands control. He's always been the type of man who needs to be in charge. Now he has something worth controlling. He positions himself as the gatekeeper to his daughter's career and her money. Lynn Spears focuses on the public image aspects. She helps craft the narrative of Britney as the all-American girl next door. She becomes complicit in selling Britney's personal life as part of the entertainment package. The pattern is set before Britney even releases her first single. She's the talent, the moneymaker, the product. Everyone else makes the decisions. She performs, they profit. She works, they manage. She creates wealth, they control it. At 17, she doesn't recognize this as problematic because she trusts her family to protect her interests. Behind the scenes, the infrastructure for total control is already being built. Financial accounts are established with Jamie's oversight. Legal structures are put in place with the family's lawyers. Business decisions are made without Britney's meaningful input. She's learning to be the performer while others learn to be the puppet masters. The music industry of the late 1990s is particularly brutal for young female performers. The marketing often centers on sexuality, but it's packaged as innocence. The pressure to maintain a perfect public image is enormous. The financial stakes are massive. For a teenager from a small town, it's overwhelming. Britney's first single, Baby One More Time, is released in October 1998. She's 16 years old. The song becomes a global phenomenon almost overnight. The music video, featuring Britney in a Catholic school uniform, sparks both admiration and controversy. The image of the innocent but slightly rebellious schoolgirl becomes her trademark. But even as she becomes one of the biggest stars in the world, the control mechanisms around her tighten. The more successful she becomes, the more valuable she is to others, the more money she generates, the more people want to manage that money. The more famous she gets, the more her personal life becomes a commodity. By age 18, Britney has sold millions of records worldwide. She's a cultural phenomenon generating massive wealth for dozens of people. But success in the spotlight comes with a price no teenager should have to pay. Phase 1. The breaking point. The year 2006 marks a turning point in Britney's life. She's 24 years old, and at the height of her career, she's sold over 150 million records worldwide. She's a global icon with everything the world thinks she should want. But behind the glamorous facade, cracks are beginning to show. Britney has just given birth to her second son, Jaden. She's also dealing with her first son, Sean Preston, who is barely a year old. 2 babies under 2 years old would challenge any new mother. But Britney isn't any new mother. She's one of the most photographed women in the world, and she's struggling with what doctors would later recognize as severe postpartum depression. The paparazzi attention reaches levels that seem almost inhuman. Photographers camp outside her home 24 hours a day. They follow her to the grocery store, to the gas station, to her children's doctor appointments. They climb trees to get photos through her bedroom windows. They chase her car at dangerous speeds through Los Angeles traffic. Imagine trying to bond with your newborn baby while dozens of photographers are shouting your name from outside your nursery window. Imagine trying to take your toddler to the park while being surrounded by men with cameras demanding you smile and pose. This is Britney's reality, every single day. Her marriage to Kevin Federline is crumbling under this pressure. Kevin had been a backup dancer with limited career prospects when they met. Now he's living in the shadow of one of the world's biggest celebrities. The relationship dynamic is complicated by the fact that Britney's success pays for everything, but Kevin wants to feel like the man of the house. The financial pressure on the entire Spears family empire is enormous. Extended family members have jobs that depend on Britney's continued success. Lawyers, managers and publicists all have mortgages that depend on her staying relevant and profitable. The machine around her has grown so large that it requires constant feeding. But Britney is exhausted. She's dealing with hormonal changes from childbirth. She's sleep deprived from caring for 2 young children. She's emotionally drained from constant public scrutiny. She's starting to crack under pressure that would break almost anyone. The warning signs are visible to those who know what to look for. She becomes more erratic in public appearances. She seems disoriented during interviews. She starts making decisions that seem impulsive and self-destructive. But instead of getting her help, the people around her see these changes as threats to their financial security. Jamie Spears watches his daughter's behavior with growing concern, but not the kind of concern a loving father should have. He's worried about what her instability might mean for the family business. He starts having quiet conversations with lawyers about options for maintaining control if Britney becomes unreliable. In November 2006, Britney files for divorce from Kevin Federline. This should be a private family matter, but nothing in Britney's life is private. The divorce immediately becomes a media circus. Every court filing is leaked to the press. Every custody negotiation becomes tabloid fodder. Kevin Federline quickly realizes that he has leverage over the world's biggest pop star. He has something she wants more than anything else: her children. He begins using Sean Preston and Jaden as bargaining chips in both the divorce negotiations and the custody arrangements. The custody battle becomes the focal point of Britney's deteriorating mental state. She's fighting not just for her marriage or her money, but for the right to be a mother to her own children. The stress pushes her to the breaking point and beyond. October 2007 arrives with devastating news. A judge awards Kevin Federline primary custody of Sean Preston and Jaden. Britney, one of the most powerful women in entertainment, loses the right to have her children live with her. She's reduced to supervised visitation with her own sons. This moment shatters something fundamental in Britney's psyche. She's built her entire identity around being a performer and a mother. Now she's lost half of that identity through a legal system that's supposed to protect families, not destroy them. Behind the scenes, Jamie Spears and the family's legal team are already preparing for what they see as an inevitable outcome. They've been watching Britney's erratic behavior. They've been documenting incidents they can use later. They're building a case for why she can't be trusted to make her own decisions. What happened next would make headlines around the world, but the real story was being written in legal documents no one was paying attention to. Phase 2. The Meltdown and the Trap. The night of January 2, 2008, starts like many others for Britney. She's at home with her children for one of her scheduled custody visits. But this visit is different. This visit becomes the moment that changes everything. When Kevin Federline's representatives arrive to pick up the children, Britney refuses to hand them over. She locks herself in a bathroom with 3-year-old Sean Preston. For hours, she refuses to come out. She refuses to give up her son. Outside the bathroom door, a crowd grows. Kevin Federline is there. Police officers arrive. Paramedics are called. The scene becomes a media spectacle as paparazzi photographers surround the house. What should be a private family crisis becomes a public breakdown broadcast around the world. When Britney finally emerges from the bathroom, she appears to be under the influence of something. Her speech is slurred. Her behavior is erratic. She's taken to Cedars-Sinai Medical Center on a psychiatric hold. The woman who commanded stages around the globe is now strapped to a hospital gurney. This is the moment Jamie Spears has been waiting for. While his daughter is sedated in a hospital bed, unable to defend herself or make decisions, he activates legal papers that have already been prepared. He petitions the court for a conservatorship, claiming Britney is unable to care for herself. The timing is not coincidental. Conservatorships are typically used for elderly people with dementia or individuals with severe developmental disabilities. They're supposed to be last resorts for people who genuinely cannot make basic life decisions. But Jamie's legal team has been planning this move for months. Within days of Britney's hospitalization, a judge grants a temporary conservatorship. Jamie Spears is appointed as conservator of his daughter's person and estate. In legal terms, this means Britney Spears, one of the most successful entertainers in history, is now legally equivalent to a child. The conservatorship is presented to the public as a loving father stepping in to help his troubled daughter. The media narrative focuses on Jamie as the hero saving Britney from herself. What the public doesn't understand is the scope of control that has just been established. Britney loses the right to access her own bank accounts. She can't hire her own lawyer. She can't make medical decisions for herself. She can't choose where to live or who to see. She can't get married or divorced without permission. She can't even drive a car without approval. The woman who had generated hundreds of millions of dollars couldn't spend $20 without permission. But the conservatorship is supposed to be temporary. It's supposed to help Britney get back on her feet and then be dissolved. That's what everyone believes will happen. That's what the legal system is designed to ensure. But that's not what Jamie Spears and his legal team have in mind. February 2008 becomes the beginning of what will eventually be revealed as one of the most systematic and long-lasting cases of financial and personal abuse in entertainment history. But at the time, most people see it as a father helping his daughter through a difficult period. The early days of the conservatorship seem to support this narrative. Britney is released from the hospital. She starts therapy. She begins taking medication. Her public appearances become more controlled and professional. The chaotic behavior that characterized late 2007 seems to be under control. But control is exactly the right word. Every aspect of Britney's life is now managed by others. She wakes up in a house chosen by her conservators. She eats food approved by her conservators. She takes medications prescribed by doctors chosen by her conservators. She works when her conservators decide she should work. The conservatorship team grows to include lawyers, accountants, security personnel, and medical professionals. All of these people are paid from Britney's estate, but none of them answer to Britney. They answer to Jamie Spears, who now has complete legal authority over his adult daughter's life. Jamie begins restructuring Britney's financial arrangements to ensure maximum benefit for himself and minimum autonomy for her. He gives himself a salary as conservator. He hires family members for various roles in the conservatorship. He makes sure that every decision flows through him. The strategic moves being made during this period are designed to make the conservatorship permanent. Jamie's legal team begins arguing that Britney's mental condition is not temporary but chronic. They suggest that she will always need supervision and can never be trusted with independence. By late 2008, a pattern is established that will persist for over a decade. Britney works to generate income for the conservatorship. Jamie makes all major decisions about her career, finances, and personal life. The legal system rubber stamps whatever the conservatorship requests. The media portrays this as a success story of rehabilitation. The first major test of this arrangement comes with the recording of Britney's next album. The album Circus is released in December 2008, less than a year after the conservatorship began. It debuts at number 1 and spawns several hit singles. The success is used as evidence that the conservatorship is working. Britney is productive and profitable again. But the creative process reveals the true nature of her situation. She records songs chosen by others. She works with producers approved by the conservatorship. She promotes the album according to schedules created without her input. She's become a performer in her own life rather than the star of it. Phase 3. The Golden Cage. The tour supporting Circus becomes a carefully choreographed demonstration of control. Every city, every venue, every song is predetermined. Britney's interactions with fans are scripted. Her interviews are pre-approved. Her social life is non-existent. The Vegas residency years begin in 2013 with Britney Piece of Me at Planet Hollywood. On the surface, this seems like a perfect arrangement. Vegas residencies are lucrative and less demanding than world tours. Britney can perform regularly while maintaining a more stable schedule. But the reality of the Vegas years reveals the full extent of her captivity. She performs the same show night after night like a trained animal. Her every move is choreographed not just artistically but personally. She can't deviate from the script on stage or off. The residency becomes a metaphor for her entire life during the conservatorship. She's trapped in a golden cage, performing for the entertainment of others while having no control over her own existence. She generates millions of dollars for the conservatorship while living on an allowance. Her romantic relationships during this period are carefully managed by the conservatorship. Potential partners must be approved. Dates are chaperoned. Relationships that become too serious are discouraged or ended. She's not allowed to make her own choices about love or intimacy. The failed relationships controlled and ended by the conservatorship become a source of deep pain for Britney. She watches friends and peers get married, have children, and build adult lives while she's treated like a teenager who can't be trusted with major decisions. Jamie Spears continues to benefit financially from every aspect of the arrangement. He receives a salary as conservator. He lives in a house purchased with Britney's money. He makes investment decisions that benefit his own interests. The longer the conservatorship continues, the more wealth he accumulates. The legal system shows little interest in questioning the arrangement. Annual reviews of the conservatorship become rubber-stamp proceedings. Judges accept reports from conservatorship-appointed professionals without independent verification. Britney's own wishes are rarely considered or documented. She was making more money than ever before, but she couldn't even choose her own clothes. Phase 4: The Awakening. The growing questions about the conservatorship begin with Britney's fans, not with legal professionals or journalists. Dedicated followers notice discrepancies between her public persona and brief moments of apparent distress. They begin documenting concerning patterns and sharing their observations online. The hashtag Free Britney movement starts small, but it gains momentum as more people begin to question why someone who can perform complex choreography and generate massive revenue can't make basic life decisions. The movement combines fan dedication with genuine concern for human rights. Social media becomes a tool for both surveillance and resistance. Britney's carefully managed Instagram account sometimes contains posts that seem to contain hidden messages. Fans analyze every photo and caption for signs of distress or coded communications. 2019 brings a significant change when Jamie Spears temporarily steps down as conservator of Britney's person due to his own health issues. Jodie Montgomery, a professional conservator, takes over the day-to-day management of Britney's personal life, while Jamie retains control of her finances. This change gives Britney her first taste of slightly less restrictive oversight in over a decade. Montgomery proves to be more responsive to Britney's preferences and less controlling than Jamie, but the fundamental structure of the conservatorship remains unchanged. The 2020 documentary Framing Britney Spears changes everything. For the first time, mainstream media presents a comprehensive examination of the conservatorship and its implications. The film raises serious questions about the legal system's treatment of Britney and the motivations of those controlling her life. Public opinion shifts dramatically after the documentary's release. What had been seen as a success story of rehabilitation is now viewed as a potential case of abuse and exploitation. Celebrities, legal experts, and human rights advocates begin speaking out in support of Britney. The increased scrutiny puts pressure on the legal system to take a closer look at the conservatorship. For the first time in over a decade, serious questions are being asked about whether the arrangement is still necessary or appropriate. Britney herself becomes aware of the documentary's impact and the growing public support for her situation. This external validation gives her strength to begin advocating more forcefully for herself within the legal system. The strategic decision to speak publicly represents a massive risk for Britney. For 13 years, she has been prohibited from discussing the conservatorship or expressing her own views about her situation. Breaking this silence could result in punishment or retaliation from the conservatorship. But Britney realizes that the growing public attention has created an opportunity that might not come again. She decides that the risk of speaking out is worth taking if it might lead to her freedom. Her legal team, now including attorneys she has chosen rather than those appointed by the conservatorship, begins preparing for what will be a historic court appearance. They know that Britney's testimony will be scrutinized by the media, the public, and the legal system. After 13 years of silence, Britney was about to tell the world what really happened. The climax, breaking the silence. June 23, 2021. Los Angeles Superior Court. Judge Brendan Penny presides over what appears to be a routine conservatorship hearing. But nothing about this day will be routine. Britney Spears has requested to address the court directly for the first time in 13 years. The courtroom is packed with media representatives, legal professionals, and court officers. Outside, Free Britney protesters gather in support. Around the world, millions of people are following the proceedings through live updates and news coverage. Britney appears via phone from her home. Her voice is shaky at first, but it grows stronger as she begins to speak. For 24 minutes, she delivers testimony that will shock the world and expose the true nature of her captivity. She starts with words that cut through 13 years of carefully managed public relations. "I just want my life back," she tells the judge. These simple words carry the weight of over a decade of lost freedom and stolen autonomy. She reveals that she has been forced to take medications that make her feel drunk. She describes lithium as punishment for not wanting to do a dance move during rehearsals. She explains how the medication made her feel so incapacitated that she couldn't even have a conversation with her parents. The courtroom falls silent as she describes being forced to use birth control against her will. She wants to get married and have a baby, but the conservatorship won't allow her to see a doctor to have her IUD removed. She's being denied the basic human right to make reproductive choices about her own body. She talks about being forced to work when she didn't want to. She describes therapy sessions that felt more like interrogations. She reveals that she's been threatened with punishment if she doesn't comply with the conservatorship's demands. Her voice breaks as she describes the isolation and control. She can't see friends without permission. She can't drive her own car. She can't have cash in her purse. She's been reduced to the status of a child, despite being a 39-year-old woman. The most devastating revelation comes when she addresses her father directly. "I truly believe this conservatorship is abusive," she states clearly. "I want to be able to get married and have a baby. I want to be able to be heard." She describes how Jamie Spears has enjoyed complete control over her life while profiting from her work. She reveals that she's been forced to pay for the lawyers who are keeping her trapped. She's funding her own captivity. The testimony exposes the psychological manipulation that has kept her compliant for years. She was told that if she didn't cooperate, she would lose access to her children completely. She was made to believe that speaking out would result in worse restrictions. She reveals that she didn't even know she could petition to end the conservatorship. For years, she believed she was trapped forever because no one told her she had legal options. The system designed to protect her had become her prison. The impact of her words is immediate and profound. Legal experts listening to the testimony recognize clear signs of abuse and exploitation. Mental health professionals note that someone capable of delivering such coherent and detailed testimony clearly has decision-making capacity. Media outlets begin reporting on the revelations in real time. Social media explodes with support for Britney and outrage at the system that enabled her abuse. Celebrity supporters who had remained quiet begin speaking out more forcefully. The legal machinery begins moving immediately after the hearing ends. Britney's testimony has created a public relations nightmare for everyone involved in maintaining the conservatorship. The narrative of a loving father helping his troubled daughter is completely destroyed. Within days of the testimony, major developments begin occurring. Britney's court-appointed lawyer, who had never advocated forcefully for her wishes, resigns from the case. This creates an opportunity for Britney to choose her own legal representation for the first time in 13 years. She hires Matthew Rosengart, a high-profile attorney with experience in entertainment law and civil rights cases. Rosengart immediately begins filing motions to terminate the conservatorship and remove Jamie Spears from his role as conservator. The public pressure becomes overwhelming for Jamie Spears. Protesters appear outside his home in Louisiana. His business interests face boycotts and negative publicity. Former friends and associates begin speaking out about his controlling behavior and financial motivations. In August 2021, Jamie files a petition to end the conservatorship entirely. This move is widely seen as an attempt to avoid further scrutiny of his actions and limit his legal exposure, but his willingness to end the arrangement he had fought to maintain for 13 years validates everything Britney had said in her testimony. Britney's testimony had created a point of no return for everyone involved. The truth about the conservatorship was now public. The system that had controlled her for 13 years was finally crumbling under the weight of its own contradictions and abuses. The resolution, Freedom and Redemption. November 12, 2021. After 13 years, 2 months and 28 days, Judge Brendan Penny speaks the words Britney has waited over a decade to hear. The conservatorship of Britney Jean Spears is hereby terminated effective today. The courtroom erupts. Outside, Free Britney protesters celebrate in the streets. Around the world, millions of people who have followed her story feel a collective sense of relief and vindication. The woman who couldn't choose her own breakfast for 13 years is finally free. But freedom after such prolonged captivity is complicated. Imagine being released from prison after 13 years and having to relearn how to make basic decisions. Imagine having to rebuild relationships with people who participated in your captivity. Imagine trying to trust yourself after being told for over a decade that you can't be trusted. Britney's first taste of freedom is both exhilarating and overwhelming. She can access her own bank account for the first time since 2008. She can drive her own car without permission. She can choose what to wear, what to eat, where to go. These simple acts that most adults take for granted feel revolutionary after 13 years of control. She immediately begins making decisions that reflect her newfound autonomy. She marries Sam Asghari, her longtime boyfriend, in June 2022. The intimate ceremony at her home represents everything the conservatorship tried to prevent: personal choice, romantic freedom, and the right to make her own decisions about love and commitment. The relationship with her family remains complicated and painful. Lynn Spears attempts reconciliation, but the damage from 13 years of complicity in the conservatorship runs deep. Jamie Spears largely disappears from public view, his reputation permanently damaged by the revelations of his abuse and exploitation. Britney channels her experience into creative expression. In October 2023, she publishes her memoir, The Woman in Me. The book becomes an instant bestseller, providing her first opportunity to tell her story in her own words without filters or management. The memoir reveals additional disturbing details about life under the conservatorship. She describes the psychological manipulation, the constant surveillance, and the systematic destruction of her self-confidence. But she also reveals her resilience, her survival strategies, and her determination to reclaim her narrative. The book's success represents more than just commercial achievement. It demonstrates that people are hungry for authentic voices and real stories. It proves that Britney still has the ability to connect with audiences, but now on her own terms rather than as a product manufactured by others. Her story resonates particularly strongly with women who have experienced controlling relationships or family dynamics. The conservatorship becomes a metaphor for any situation where someone's autonomy is stripped away in the name of protection or love. Mental health advocates use her case to push for conservatorship reform. California passes new legislation making it harder to establish conservatorships and requiring more oversight of existing arrangements. Other states begin examining their own conservatorship laws. But Britney's recovery is not a straight line from captivity to complete healing. She struggles with trust issues, anxiety, and the long-term effects of psychological trauma. She sometimes makes decisions that seem impulsive or self-destructive, but now these are her choices to make. Her relationship with fame itself evolves significantly. The woman who was once one of the most photographed people in the world now values privacy and normalcy. She shares what she wants to share when she wants to share it, rather than having her entire life managed as a public commodity. At 42 years old, Britney is rebuilding her life from the ground up. She's learning to make decisions without consulting anyone else. She's developing relationships based on mutual respect rather than financial dependence. She's discovering who she is when she's not performing for others. Her story becomes a powerful reminder that it's never too late to reclaim your life. No matter how long you've been controlled by others, no matter how many people have profited from your compliance, no matter how impossible freedom seems, change is possible. The broader impact of her case extends far beyond entertainment or celebrity culture. Her experience highlights the vulnerability of adults with disabilities or mental health challenges. It demonstrates how legal systems designed to protect can become tools of exploitation. Her courage in speaking out inspires others in similar situations to find their voices. Support groups for conservatorship abuse begin forming. Legal aid organizations start helping people challenge inappropriate conservatorships. The system that trapped her begins changing because she refused to stay silent. But perhaps the most important lesson from Britney's story is about the power of perseverance. For 13 years, she endured systematic abuse while maintaining hope that things could change. She found ways to survive and even thrive within an oppressive system while never giving up on the possibility of freedom. Her transformation from pop princess to prisoner to survivor demonstrates the resilience of the human spirit. It shows that even when others try to reduce you to a commodity or a diagnosis, you remain a complete human being worthy of respect and autonomy. The woman who once sang about being stronger than yesterday has proven those words prophetic. She survived betrayal by those closest to her. She endured legal captivity disguised as protection. She found her voice after years of enforced silence. She reclaimed her life after more than a decade of control. Today, Britney Spears represents something more powerful than a comeback story. She represents the possibility that anyone can break free from the people and systems that try to control them. She proves that it's never too late to fight for your own life, no matter who is profiting from your captivity. Sometimes the people who claim to love you the most are the ones who cage you the deepest. But even the strongest cages can be broken when you find the courage to speak your truth and refuse to accept someone else's definition of who you should be.